So now that you have made a summary of each interview that you've done and you uploaded each of those specific summaries separately to the folder that I've specified, now you're going to do some analysis of not just your own summaries, but the summary of other students in class. So you need to get your summaries uploaded a week before the assignment is due so that other people can see your summaries and they can do this analysis before they need to turn in the assignment. So I've created this file, which I've given you a link to simulate what this process will be like. You can use this file. You're going to need to save it as a separate file. Don't work in the file that I created. You're going to use this file to record all of your ratings of the summaries and then be able to do analysis so that you can zoom out from one individual summary, and instead of talking in generalities like, oh, it looks like there's more interest in this than that, you can actually look at numbers. So for example, here I've created this sheet. What you'll do with this sheet is you'll enter the identifier for each interview, and then you will enter information related to whether they're a pass or fail on the value proposition and whether they're in or outside the customer segment. Okay, so with the interview that I did, I said that he was a fail on both interviews, so I'm going to put a 0 for fail. Okay, and then is he low experience? No, he's not. He is high experience, so I put a 0 for low experience because the bucket that I'm looking for is low experience. He's outside the bucket. And then is he high growth? And I classified him as, yeah, he is high growth. He's a little bit close to the border on that, but he does want to grow quite a bit. At the end of the day, this is the classification that I give to him based on the summary. So then you're going to look at all the other summaries, put their identifiers in here, and then classify each of them based on those summaries in the same way. I just have 26 interviews here. You might have more or less. If you have more or less, you can delete rows or add rows. If you're going to delete or add in the middle, and it makes these formulas more likely to not have mistakes. Okay? So what I've done over here is I've created a process that makes it easier for you to analyze the interviews numerically. You could do this by hand, and I have another video where I do it without formulas. But in this alternative assignment, you're going to have bigger numbers by the end of the semester. So it's helpful if you can use the power of spreadsheets to analyze the data. So basically what I've done is I have created zeros and ones to describe the intersection of a pass on value proposition with whether they're in or outside of the customer segment. So this cell describes a pass on solving problems and low experience. This one describes a pass on solving problems and high experience. So I break down all of the passes. And again, he was not a pass on any of them, so they're all zeros. But then if you have a pass on a solving problems, you're going to have some ones over here. The whole idea here is that I'm doing this analysis here to put into different buckets the passes on different value propositions so we can see who is more interested than less interested. So with these little formulas here at the bottom, I can see, well, how many people are in the category of solving problems and low experience. So there's 11 people with low experience among this data set that are interested in solving problems and have low experience. The next one is solving problems and high experience. There's 6 that are within that group, and so on. Solving problems with high growth, there's 8. Pass on solving problems and low growth, 9. A pass on improving mindset and low experience, 10. And so forth. So you can see you did 26 interviews. Of those, 15 were low experience, and then 26 minus 15 are high experience, and 13 are high growth, meaning that 13 are low growth. With these numbers here, then I can see the percentage of interviews in each category, and then I can also see the percentage within the customer segment category that corresponds to a pass. So for example, for the people that are interested in solving problems and have low experience, out of that group, what's the probability that they're a pass? And I can see here, the way I've calculated it, it's 73%. But then if I compare it to the group that are those with high experience, what's the probability that they are interested in solving problems? It's 55%. And therefore I can compare across all of these different categories with numbers. You'll have to watch the other video as well to get the idea, but these formulas help you to get these numbers. It might be more helpful for you to classify the people in different buckets so that you get the intuition behind it, because the math obscure what you're trying to do. So now that you've classified all the interviews, and here's the link to that file, and here's also the link to the folder where you're going to put them, then you're going to create the analysis table. In the report, you're going to need to make a table like this so that you can just summarize the data in a way that is kind of helpful to see patterns. So what I've done is I've gone through and taken these numbers, these raw numbers, 11, 6, 8, and 9, that corresponds to this low experience, high growth, low growth. And then the numbers that are associated with that, 73, 55, 62, and 69. 73, 55, 62, and 69. So I transfer these numbers over so that I can get an idea of, is there any pattern among the data that is really interesting? Right now I've only got 26 interviews, so it's a little bit difficult to get really clear patterns. 26 is a very small number if you're trying to get statistical patterns. But by the end of the semester, we should be able to get better patterns because we'll have multiple people doing multiple interviews. So what I'm looking at here is, are people with low experience more interested in solving problems than those with high experience? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to compare these numbers, 73 and 55. There is quite a bit of difference there. And the reason that we have to do it in percentage terms is because you're not going to interview the exact same number of people with low experience as high experience. So we have to get a percentage rather than the raw total. So we're comparing that. That's kind of interesting. That's an insight that I wrote down here at the bottom, that yeah, it looks like those with low experience are more interested in solving problems than those with high experience. And then I commented a little bit here on the bottom about that. Improving mindset, it seems like experience doesn't matter that much. Now if I go over here to high growth and low growth, solving problems, the interest level is about the same. And similarly with improving mindset, so maybe growth doesn't matter as much. We can see here that the total interest, if you just look at how many passes there are over all the interviews, however we classify them, we get 17 passes out of 26 interviews, and that's 65%. So that indicates that, you know, it's bigger than 50%. Maybe that's what our initial hypothesis was, or maybe 60%. It seems like there's quite a bit of interest there, and also with improving mindset. So this is what you're looking at, trying to look at these numbers and see, do I see anything interesting there? So the first thing is comparing these numbers over here. The total interest seems pretty interesting. Then we break it down into different buckets here. Like I said, the 73 seems to be bigger than these. These other numbers are about the same. So it's kind of hard to say that we should eliminate one versus another. If we're trying to focus on a program that helps entrepreneurs solve specific day-to-day problems, the low experienced people are going to be more interested. So you're going to have some analysis like that, like what I give here. And then finally, you're going to go back to all the summaries that you did, and you're going to record the quotes that you thought were most insightful. So you're trying to, point out, hey, my classmates found something really interesting here, and at least 3, maybe more if you find something more. Okay, so that is the interview report. You're going to have 1 interview per individual on your team. You'll make a summary for each of those interviews. You'll upload the summary, and you'll also upload the audio to the files, folders that I provide for you on Google Drive. You'll create this table and look for insights and explain them based on the other summaries that you've read, not just your own. I've asked you to include a screenshot of your data sheet just so that I can see that you actually went through this process. And then as an appendix, you're going to put each summary in to your report, as well as put it into the file folder I have to share all summaries with all the other students. So let me know if you have any questions about that. You will have the same process for the interim report and the same process for the final report. So if you get this down, it will become easier. You don't need to have a lot of stress about this assignment. It's very few points. And the idea is that I'm trying to help you get the process and get any problems worked out so that on the next assignments, when you do more interviews and more analysis that count for more points, it will be less stressful.